Bernard Rapoport. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to do it. I had a wonderful experience yesterday. I had to make a speech to a large group of people, and I had all my notes. And I forgot my notes. And I made the speech, and one of my friends was there and said, "That's the best speech you ever made." So anyway, this shows you how smart I am. I just want to tell you, I think y'all are wonderful to be here today. I'm 91 and I've known a lot of people in my life. And I've known a lot of great people. And I've been very privileged to know these kind of people. And being the child of a Russian Jewish revolutionist, all he cared about were books. And every morning at 5 o'clock he'd wake me up and I was reading the book. And today's 91, I still get up and read. So I'm always smarter today than I was yesterday. But there's so much more. There's so much room for improvement for me knowing something. But anyway, I met this young fellow, Frisch, and what I got out of him is that there are a few people in this life that really want friendship, not for any personal reason, but because they needed it just like an automobile needs gasoline. He is one of the most treasured people in this community, and most people don't know him. But I don't know how I was lucky enough to meet him. But he writes this book, and I read it, and I tell you that he brings in things that I had never thought about. And I know that it is very nice of you to take your time to come to listen to, from my point, you're privileged to listen to it. But so often, it's Saturday, and there's that thing called television, which is, well, we won't talk about that. And you've come, and he appreciates it, and I appreciate it. And you didn't come to hear me, you came to hear him, and you're going to hear a truly great man.
Thank you, B. Appreciate that. Thank you. He's not kidding when he says a book a day. His office is like a fire hazard of books. So, and you don't want to lend him a book because it's hard to unearth sometimes. But thank you, B, and Ken, for setting this up. I really appreciate it. My book's about a new approach to positive psychology called Best Life Coaching. And that's what I want to tell you about today, and tell you about the book that describes it. So there's a related book that has even more information, Quality of Life Therapy, that's also available here. But this is more for the general public. And you've heard that saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Forget that, okay? This is a really cool cover. So you need to buy this sucker. Actually, this is a very powerful book. If you put it under your pillow at night, the next morning you'll wake up with a stiff neck and centuries of wisdom just kind of flow into you automatically. Actually, this book tries to be a little different than some other ones in that it's based on research about how to set goals and actually achieve them. So if this isn't an oxymoron, it's a scientific self-help book designed to help you build a meaningful life by setting goals that really get accomplished. And there is a technology about this. Now, who's this book for? Anyone who doesn't follow through with their New Year's resolution, which is a lot of us. One of the issues there is we use the same techniques over and over again. And this is a book of new techniques. and techniques that have been tested in business, in relationships, in all walks of life. So if you want a makeover, so to speak, or you want a new beginning in your life, or you're reeling from the recession and some of its negative impact, it's not a bad idea, I think, to take science along with you. Take some scientific tools with you. That might increase your chance of success. There's a lot of books that don't take that approach. I'm thinking of Robert Ringer's, people just writing off the top of their head. Robert Ringer's book, Winning Through Intimidation, where he says, if you want to get what you want from your boss, stare at their bald spot. I don't know where he got this. He's probably been murdered by now for all the people who got fired. But this is more of a science-based approach. It's a little bit related to the book, The Bucket List. How many people have seen that?
The movie?
Yeah, the movie. Okay. So the idea, though, is instead of waiting till you kick the bucket or die, set some goals now for yourself. So it also, if you read this book, you'll learn about how to conquer neophobia, which is not a revulsion of Keanu Reeves or the Matrix movies. It's the new things, because my book encourages you to take risks. It's a sine qua non of positive psychology today. So you probably want a few tips maybe from the book. So one of the ideas of the book for achieving your life goals is something called meaning optimism. We stay extremely optimistic about finding a path to meaning in your life. If you look at the book Gilead, which won the Pulitzer Prize by Marilyn Robinson, there's a character, John Ames, in there who says there's 1,000 ways to find meaning in this life. So that's the kind of attitude we have. And you can see stories in the book of people who they've been blown up by an IED in Iraq. They've grown up in terrible circumstances like B, and risen above this. They're resilient. And in fact, we review the literature on resilience to help you deal with the inevitable bumps you're going to hit as you try to build a path of meaning in your life, or set particular goals. Now, it's interesting. There's different schools of thought about happiness and goals and building a life of meaning. One of the approaches I call the legacy approach, and we ask people to say, what kind of legacy do you want to leave after you die? And you write your obituary in a way that you'd like to have it read. Has anyone ever heard of this or been subject to something like that? Okay. Which is a fine approach. There's another approach which has to do with enjoying your life that you have now, before you die. So, and I recommend that approach too. So one of the things I emphasize in working with people is to have them decide their legacy, but also find things that really capture their interest and imagination. High flow activities for their hobbies and their work and their relationship. And by flow activities, I'm talking about Mike Csikszentmihalyi's work of activities that challenge your skills and where you get completely immersed in it and kind of lose track of time. Does anyone have an activity like that you could tell us about? How about you, Reba?
Writing.
Writing?
Writing something.
Yeah, writing can do it. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yes.
The Clinton County Historical Commission is going to publish a book, and for 2 years we've been going out into the small communities and writing their stories.
That's fantastic. So you're taking oral histories for a history book of the county. Anybody else? Well, these high flow activities, if you look at jobs that people like, a lot of the top ones in the University of Chicago study are jobs having to do with writing and the arts, and then also having to do with serving other people. So people like firefighters are really high on the list of loving their work. People like teachers and clergy, which you might think those are passé professions, but there's a lot of people who still gain a lot of satisfaction. So that's something to think about also. What have other people found satisfying? Because I call it the sin of pride. We make a mistake when we predict what's going to make us happy, because we tend to be kind of proud and think, well, I'm different from everyone else. what I want is going to be different or special, when in fact we're very similar to each other, and we want to pay attention to the wisdom of those around us. And it's not a bad idea to get ideas from other people and other research. I also think it's important to make room for fun. So the late, great novelist Kurt Vonnegut used to say, the purpose of life is to fart around. The purpose of life is to fart around. So you need some what I call frivolous flows to really fart around in a fun way. And those are things that capture your imagination, that you get immersed in, but may not add to your money or prestige in any way. So in terms of keeping goals, it's a good, this book tells you there's a science to making goals. Like, you think it's good to just tell your kids or yourself, do your best. Well, that only works in situations where you have no skills and it's a novel situation. We know from the research that it's important to have specific goals, high goals. Successful people are perfectionists in the areas of their success, whether it's their marriage or their work, their retirement pursuits, service to others. So there's a lot of tips in this book about the latest science of what gets people moving. And the goals are to be near and dear to your heart. So this isn't just about making money. In fact, people who are materialistic are the least happy, according to the research. But we do need money in the service of what we want to accomplish. And in that sense, it's very important to have. Relationships are very important. And this is something I got from B, where he'd say, no one does anything alone. And you remember the book, It Takes a Village. You know, it takes a village. No one really does anything alone. So one of the things I'm going to challenge you, we'll do a little thought experiment now. I want you to think about firing your friends. Pretend that you got your own little Project Runway going on, or The Apprentice show, and all your friends and family and loved ones are sitting here like you are. And you say to the group, I know all of you have really tried to be good friends and loved ones, but some of you haven't made the cut. Okay, so you point to your brother and say, you are out. You point to your boss or a coworker and say, you are out. You look to your girlfriend or boyfriend and start singing 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. You look to your boss and start singing the Johnny Paycheck song. How does that go? Can we sing it together? Take this. Okay, good. Okay, we're going to do a chorus of that after this. Anyway, the idea behind firing your friends is that, I don't know if you're aware of this, but moods like depression, pessimism, laziness, you can catch them like a cold from your friend, from the people around you. There's research in New England Journal of Medicine about how you're going to be as fat as your closest friend, even if they live 1,000 miles away. So your social environment is very important in terms of motivating you and supporting you. I would say that you need friends who are believers in you. And this is a wonderful thing about B. You know, he'll look you in the eye and it's like he sees potential in everybody. And he nurtures that. We all need someone like that. There's some research that people who get out of gangs in really bad areas like central Los Angeles or something, the ones who are successful had someone that said, I believe in you, kind of a mentor type person. You also need friends who are what we call expert friends, people in your boat in life who are successful. Those are the people you want to buddy up to. So someone else who has cancer, someone else who's facing retirement. There's a book by George Valiant called Aging Well, where this is one of the most important aspects of aging, is to find expert friends. He's also big on these frivolous flows. So you want friends who love you, warts and all, and things are contagious. And you can have a positive contagiousness. So there's a guy, Jim Rodrigue from Beth Israel Hospital in Boston and Harvard, and he's used my approach from this book with people who are pretty stressed out. They're people with very serious lung disease waiting for lung transplants. They might have to wait 1 to 3 years. After they get a transplant, 3/4 die within the first year. So these people realize some very significant gains in their quality of life and positive emotions and meaning and contentment But what was really cool is it was contagious to their spouses and caregivers who were not into counseling at all. So I would suggest to you, you want to build a life like that of friends that really give you that kind of support. And you may have to fire what I call the black holes, you know, people who just kind of suck the energy and vitality. You know, can you think of someone like that when you go to see them or you run into them and afterward it's like, geez, I need a nap or something, you know, or a drink. At Baylor it would be iced tea. But, another thing is allowing yourself to dream impossible dreams. I think a lot of us have been taught to doubt ourselves and play it safe and stay in our comfort zone. And that's antithetical with the idea of positive psychology and success in your life. So we try to help people take risks. We find it in the clinical area, people who are socially phobic. The big problem we're finding in the research is that they don't put themselves in social situations. And once we get them into a social situation, they realize it's not as bad or as dangerous. They won't be as embarrassed or humiliated. But they won't get out of their comfort zone. And I would say we all need to get out of our comfort zone and take some risks, which is very difficult. And my son and I, Jacob, did this. Would you stand up, Jacob? I'm so proud of this guy. We played guitar and sang at an event. Wasn't that fun?
Yeah.
He's completely lying through his teeth, but I've trained him. You gotta know how to lie. No, I'm kidding. But in terms of taking these, there's a new concept called grit. It's a new personality characteristic, which B has an abundance of. It's a perseverance and passion for your goals. And recruits at West Point are now taking this test to see, because it predicts who's gonna make it through this first year that's like a living hell. I guess that summer there's a lot of difficult exercises and things. So you want to take risks with grit, and there's a lot of wonderful people who've done that. I think of J.K. Rowling, who's talked about her clinical depression and suicidal depression after her divorce, and got some help, and then started writing these Harry Potter books, you know, in the coffee shop with her infant daughter. You know, isn't that inspiring? Leonardo da Vinci kept goals written down in his notebooks and would counsel his pupils and say, first consider the end. First consider the end. So come up with your goal in life or for this piece of art, and then you start to plan for it. The other thing I'd suggest is you try to put joy in the journey. We know that success leads to greater happiness, contentment, meaning in life. Having your most cherished needs, goals, and wishes builds that contentment. But it's a really good idea to kind of stoke your happiness before you reach all your goals. Because by raising your level of happiness just a little bit, you get a lot more motivation and you're a lot more centered and calm and able to pursue these goals and persevere. And there's some interesting happiness boosters in the book, all research validated. One of the ideas is, there's this BAT exercise. It has 8 positive psychology exercises in one. I'll let you look for that. There's gratitude, forgiveness, meditation. The other thing about the book is we recommend that you keep track of your level of success in achieving a life list or happiness. And there's measures for this. You can go to my website at Baylor where I have what I call the Meaningful Life Project. And it's a bunch of free exercises and interviews with the leaders in the field, the top researchers. And there you'll see some tests you can take to kind of monitor your progress. Another thing I'd say is get on a diet. Not the kind of diet you're thinking of, but a diet of influences. I'm thinking of the Buddhist Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, where he says, look at the diet of influences in your life and make sure that you have influences that support who you want to be. In that regard, there's some new research on primes or reminders you can embed in your environment that will pull you towards your goals. There's even ways you can write the goals that will pull you towards realizing them in a better way, scientifically. you end up kind of doing a feng shui of your world to move you towards the goal. So it's like you're arranging your furniture. So you fall out of bed and you're sitting in your chair, Reva, or your writing chair. You have no choice. You can't even go to the bathroom till you start writing. Other aspects. The other thing is to be able to bounce back from failure. We know that failure is ubiquitous. We all have setbacks, and my friend and role model, Lyndon Olson, has written about this, that the big thing about failure is just how quickly you can get up again. And this, Confucius agrees with him. So Confucius says success is failing and then getting up quickly to try and learn from your mistakes and move on, and not get mired in depression or blaming yourself as a person for the setback. This is not what happens in successful people. And you can learn optimism and some of these skills by becoming a student of positive psychology and being your own psychologist to an extent. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
You autograph a book?
Yes, I'll be glad to, sure.
Do you buy the book first or do you sign it first?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Well, we don't get a free book for coming here?
I'm okay and you're okay if the check's okay. So we're going to have to do some background checks on certain people here. But cash is definitely preferred. No, I don't know how we do that. Ken?
Where's Ken?
I don't
He's
know.
coming.
Okay.
He's going
Around
around.
the
Oh,
They want to know how if they pay for it before I sign it? or-
No, you can just get it signed here, and if you prefer pen or
Yeah,
something.
okay, sure.
And then you can just take it up to the front when they're ready to check out. If they want to walk in the store,
Okay.
just get it signed here, and whatever you're ready to check out up front. If there's a big line, you can also check out in the cafe.
Okay.
Okay. Wayne, did you have a question?
I did, Mike. I was just kind of curious. I don't do well with time, but I've sort of watched your work over the years. And you first started developing the quality of life inventory. This book is a product of like how many years of work now, would you say?
That's a great question. It really started in probably 1985.
85?
And in '89, I gave a paper at this World Congress at Oxford University that absolutely no one paid any attention to. And the big star of that conference was a guy named Marty Seligman. And 10 years later, he birthed the movement of positive psychology. So I got in there a little bit early. But what Marty's done is he's built this incredible machine of grants and bringing in professors and giving them money to research it even more. So, but yeah, I remember you were an early supporter of this. And I think if you look at medicine today, the goal really should be to cure or manage disease and disability and then preserve or enhance quality of life. And so people are looking at quality of life interventions, even though they may not affect the disease process directly. Although there's really good research that when you're in a lot of stress, say you've got cancer and you're isolated and you're not talking to your family, if you can reduce that stress, you'll reduce the negative emotions associated with that. I call it the big three: anxiety, depression, and anger. By reducing those negative emotions, we know that immune system functioning goes up, cardiovascular health goes up, and a host of other organ systems are influenced. So I'm hoping someday you'll go to your doctor and they'll give you a quality of life test, preferably mine, to pay for his education. But they're going to ask, are you happy with your life? Are you satisfied? And tests like mine actually predict significant things, like whether you're going to drop out of college 1 to 3 years in advance. Okay, but yes, ma'am.
You think what is your feeling about, and B, you might want to comment on this, about our healthcare system adopting some of this in a sense of we're all, especially mental health, caught up in treating disease, and this is the flip side. This is helping people improve and hopefully not develop depression, anger, anxiety. Do you feel, what do you think public policy-wise it would take to get the powers to be to look at more emphasis on this reimbursement to practitioners and more emphasis with training in medical schools, school of psychology get people to think like this rather than just all the time we've spent, my years is, learning about psychopathology and treating psychopathology.
Yeah, that's a great question. Pete, do you want to answer that, or do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about that, because, coming from my background, people were very rich and they had a life where they didn't give anything of themselves to ameliorate the quality of life of others. And I think that we are in a serious situation in our society today where whatever we want, we're entitled to. And we don't, what bothers me, I think, the most is that we don't really have the goals that you're talking about. I mean, you see somebody that, I'll give you a perfect story. Meals on Wheels, everybody knows about it.
He's one of their top volunteers.
In our foundation, we've given money to it. So the leader of the foundation came in and he said, now B, I want you to deliver meals for people. So I said, well, I'm busy. He says, you're too busy to see that somebody doesn't starve? I said, no, I'm not that busy. So he gave me the meals and put them in the car. And we do it. I'll never forget this long as it. But if something happened in the office, and I was about an hour late in delivering it. So I pull up to this man's house, and he's very thin, and he's sitting on the porch. And as I bring the food to him, he says, I thought you forgot. Well, I hated myself. Here I am stuffed with food all the time. And here's a man that needed food. And my excuse was I was too busy. So anyways, he wanted to take the food from me. And I said, no, let me carry it. And I said, I owe you, and I